Kalagi. What is cooking, Sir Sensei, Sir Mr. Yoda, rocking with the hat? What is cooking in the world of you?
What is cooking is confronting myself and my own working on my mastery, rising. I am present to it. I'm super grateful to everybody here for all the things that we're doing. And I had a great conversation with somebody yesterday. I want to jump in here, and then we're going to have an important special guest to talk about a couple cool things. And it's this, and it was actually Anil who supported in just bringing something to present for me. This program, I know you know this, but I want to say it out loud, is not about modeling me. It's about modeling certain aspects of things that we're talking about related to our acceleration in our growth, our sales, our marketing, our processes, the freeing of magic, but it's your path, and I've made very, very unique decisions about family and my children. I made very unique decisions in 2000, probably my whole life, but certainly in terms of how I showed up for my business. There's a lot of people that are like, dude, you could turn the law firm into $100 million a year, $200 million a year enterprise. And I had no interest because I wanted to build, I want to sit with my daughters and watch them be privately trained in soccer. And then I want to be out in the field, kicking a ball with them and making things happen and all those things. So make conscious decisions that are relevant to where you are in your life. Like right now, my kids are in space of grownness, right? And so I am let's go, a straight up maniac, and I'm in. I'm in 16 hours a day, making it happen, sometimes 18 hours a day. And so I want to be clear, it doesn't take 16 to 18 hours a day to increase your income by $50,000 a year. It creates 16, 18 hours a day to take on disrupting the world of coaching, training, speaking, professional development, personal development, the being all things for business, being to business what Amazon is to your life. That may require 16 to 18 hours a day for a while. And that'll have impacts and dynamics that I'm consciously choosing. So I just want to lean into that for you to make an extra 50 grand, 100 grand, $200,000 a year doesn't take anything like that. I was able to put, you'll be able to put numbers like that together quite simply, for an extra $500,000 a year, quite simply, right? Rob Gill's coaching 4 basketball teams coached 3 games this weekend, another game for his kids, and he's rocketing his sales meetings through the roof. So we can find an amazing balance. And I am not suggesting to you that you adopt the current lifestyle that I'm living and going to live for this year and probably next year to get this thing to its place. I've been waiting to do this for a really long time. I've been sitting on this. I've had this idea for 23 years. I've been sitting on its acceleration for 14 years when I realized that in 2006, I was going to chill and in this space and invest all of my being into my kids' childhood. And thank you for so many of your wonderful comments about Tyler. Tyler, like me, like you, is perfectly imperfect. And I couldn't be more grateful. I feel like the most blessed and privileged, as blessed and privileged as any father in the world, to have my perfectly imperfect children, as we are all, again, perfectly imperfect, hashtag perfectly imperfect. But he's been my best friend for my life. And I love my daughters and we do incredible things together, but just being, super real, Tyler's been my best friend. They were always all invited to do everything. But Ty had just this yearning for adventure. So when it's we've all traveled around the world together, my son and my daughters, but Ty's wanted to take even more trips. So our trip to Switzerland, everybody was like, do you want to go? Yeah, I don't want to go, Dad. Okay. So me and Ty went to Switzerland and we were ice climbing on waterfalls when he was, 10 years old. And we had remarkable journeys and adventures together. And so as I talk about this balancing context of life and timing, I don't know that you've ever met somebody who worked less, that had a beautiful high income and was financially free than I did during those 2010, 11, 12, 13, or 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all those years. It was an extraordinary way to live. And it was as great as any time in my life. And it was a little bit easier and more fun than what's happening right now, but I'm every bit as grateful for what's happening now. Almost. That's not quite true. The greatest moments in time in my life were the times and moments I've spent with my children. And this is like right there, in a very different way. But this is absolutely beautiful and amazing, and I couldn't be more grateful for it. So just present to the consciousness of decision making about how you live your life and what you're doing, realizing that that's for you. And I've made some hyper intentional decisions, and I'm really happy about them. I want to quit once or twice a day, and I'm like, what the F? I get frustrated. I'm a very passionate, emotional person. 10:30 last night, I was frustrated about some things. I was like just beside myself with frustration, but I know how to deal with that and, move through. And nothing terrible happened. Like, but when you're going fast and like an outcome doesn't happen the way you want it to, there's just like can show up. So present to consciousness of choice, present to you choosing, but choose. Like Mr. Miyagi said, and I love my movie references, and forgive me if that like is not your thing, but from Karate Kid, he's like, walk on right side, all good. Walk on left side, all good. Walk in the middle, right? Don't walk down the middle. Like if wherever you're going to walk, have consciousness of choice. That's all. So love you guys. Amazing. Adam, Fernando, good morning. Everybody, good morning. We have a guest this morning, Jeff Graber. Do we have Jeff live? Jeff, you out there, brother?
Good morning, Sir Callie. Can you hear me?
Yes, Sir Graber. What's up, brother? So Jeff Graber is my friend, my partner, as fine an attorney as you will find anywhere. He and Michael Smikin are straight up rock stars, geniuses, have co-created in this. But Jeff Graber has taken the leading oar. He has been the driver. He has been the workhorse. He has been the sacrificer. He has been carrying this torch like a passion, a mission, a gladiator, a warrior, a truth seeker. And that's what it's been about for him. And we've hit a really important place in time, Jeff, and this is in the space of our case on behalf of Jason Fick versus Facebook. And there's some important things that are happening right now and about to happen today. So Jeff, I want to honor you for your work, your integrity, and maybe just for a moment, speak into what's happening right now and why it matters to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the platform to call attention to this most important cause. And first of all, amen on the consciousness of decision making. I think about that so much in my personal life as a father of soon to be 3, and professional life. It's a very deep 3 words there, and kind of segues nicely into what we're talking about here. Sean, you and I met almost 3 years ago, and I remember at dinner, I think this was the same weekend that you took me out to LBI and persuaded me that there's some non-existent sandbar out there, and almost drowned, but good times. I found no sandbar. I just found riptides, and we had to fight off great whites with our bare hands. It was just crazy. But that same weekend, after that exhilarating experience, we were sitting having dinner and talking about the terms of employ, but not so much. I could tell Sean was different from the start when we were talking more about us as human beings and the culture at Callagy Law. And, it was just a different conversation, one I've never encountered during the hiring process. And I knew immediately it was the place I wanted to be, in large part because of that. But one of the first topics of conversation was, hey, Sean, I got this case. I got to sue Facebook. And if you want me at your firm, you got to take this case. Sean said, well, what's it about? I go, it's about restoring voice and freedom. Among other things, livelihood, the American dream. And, it goes much deeper than this when you're suing a multi-trillion-dollar entity with an army of lawyer $10,000 black suits. But once Sean heard those words, restoration of freedom, voice, choice, livelihood, about 2 minutes into that, he said, I'm all in. And then I really knew that I had to be at Callaghy Law and I had to be working with Sean Callaghy. But that's where it all started. This case, almost 2.5 years ago, the case started in California's federal court systems. We represent a fella who was once the 5th largest internet presence in the entire world.
Just say that one more time. Just say that one more time, like because that's all. That's
the 5th largest internet presence in the entire world, ahead of like CNN, ESPN, Disney. He had over 25 million followers and was enjoying hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in advertising and web trafficking monies flowing from that massive audience. And he just had a collection of businesses / pages dedicated to humor. He just posted funny stuff. And long story as to why he got on Facebook's dark side, but it can really be boiled down to corporate greed.
And by the way, just for fun, he was much more tame than George, our dear friend, the attorney. So George, I love you, but he was much more tame than George. Back to you, Jeff.
Well, that's saying something, because to say that Jason Fick is tame.
I didn't say Jason Fick is tame.
Okay, all right, I got you.
Yeah, Jason Fick is not tame. Yeah.
Relatively tame compared to George. That's interesting. I needed to get with this George. I need to meet George. But anyways, so where the heck was I? Facebook had decided at that time, the 2016, 2017-ish era, that it was going to institute a voluntary paid for reach program. My client was like, okay, don't really need any more reach. Thank you. I'm good. So he only paid like $40,000 into this program just to appease Facebook.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Is it fair to say that what Jason relied upon in a meaningful way was the notion that he could build his following there, and then he could reach those people? Like, he could reach the people that he brought together on his pages. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Facebook had invited not just Jason, but hundreds of thousands of people to, come on in. The water's warm. The platform's free. Build your livelihood. No catches. No bait and switches. It's free. Trust us. Come on in. So people came in like Jason Fick, and they built their businesses. They built their reach. They built their connectivity throughout the entire world. And all was well in Whoville until Facebook decided this whole free thing just wasn't going to work. We need to make millions and millions off of our users, or they're not cool. They're going to get blacklisted. And we're going to do to them what we did to Jason Fick. We're going to delete them and crush their livelihood overnight. And we're going to steer and orchestrate their businesses to higher paying competitors who pay us $22 million a year instead of $40,000 a year. So our complaint for those lawyers out there, or just anybody who's somewhat familiar with legalese, sounds in fraud, civil extortion, unfair competition, and tortious interference with economic relations. And those all make sense given this situation. And here we are now, having just filed our United States Supreme Court petition. We are in the highest court of the land. And everybody, you see this all throughout the media, folks. Censorship. The left voice versus the right voice. Monopolization. Social media giants controlling the freaking world. In economics, politics, and ideologies. This is not good. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. The issue at play is what's called Communications Decency Act Immunity. Title 47 United States Code Section 230, whereby social media giants claim that they enjoy a sovereign-like immunity, carte blanche immunity, to do to people on the internet what would otherwise be illegal in the ordinary world. This is not the intention of CDA immunity. CDA immunity was enacted in 1996 to protect our children from internet pornography, yet social media titans have spiraled out of control.
Yeah. So what
and we're not the only ones that feel this way. I just got to say, Sean, President Trump enacted an executive order in May 2020, right on point with our case and what CDA immunity is supposed to mean. Justice Clarence Thomas issued an advisory opinion. I'll call it an advisory opinion because that's what it was. And that's extraordinary, by the way. On October 13th, 2020, welcoming a case in the 24-year existence of the CDA legislation, whereby the Supreme Court can finally define the breadth of CDA immunity, which again, social media giants are twisting to control politics, economics, and ideology across the board.
And Jeff,
all of the stars have aligned, and here we are. Yep.
Jeff, let me jump in because some people heard Clarence Thomas and Donald Trump, and they're like, okay, this is like a political issue. What does Joe Biden think of CDA immunity? And what has Joe Biden come out and publicly said?
Good point. This is not politics, folks. Joe Biden, this is actually maybe one thing that Biden and Trump agree on, the left and the right agree on. I know it's hard to believe. Both sides agreeing on something these days. Geez, go figure. But no, Biden's come out in several publications like the New York Times, several media interviews, and also said that Section 230 CDA immunity is out of control. It must be reined in. Clarence Thomas is not the only justice. And by the way, for those who really study the Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas is more in the middle. I don't care what you say. He's not really lefty or righty, but he's not the only judge throughout the country that agrees with our interpretation. Mainly, the only court system that doesn't agree with our interpretation is the California court system, who's in bed with Silicon Valley Titans.
Yeah. And so
I'll just be very blunt about that.
So real quick. So what we're saying is that this is the nutshell, that the social media companies are falsely saying something violates the Decency Act that they don't really believe violates the Decency Act, to censor content for not even political purposes, for their economic purposes. So they're using a law that was designed to protect children from internet pornography for their own economic benefit, as a pretext, something that they don't even believe. And Donald Trump and Joe Biden agree on this subject and are saying that the use of CDA immunity is out of control. Joe Biden has spoken into the repeal of CDA. So yes, this is something they agree on. And by the way, I'm going to drop in as a little footnote continuation from yesterday. I think Joe Biden and Donald Trump, this is me, probably agree on about 90% of things. And I think the left and the right does too, maybe 95%. But we just all talk about things we disagree on. That is a story you don't have to agree on for a completely different day. But factually, they do agree on this. So this is not a left issue. It is not a right issue. It is an American issue of freedom, integrity, transparency, reality, and that's what's at stake. So Jeff. So just taking this home, there's a press release, like we're going to post it today. Like what's happening with that, and let's take it home.
Yeah. So Sean has teamed us up. I don't know if I'm at liberty to disclose the name or the firm. Sean can do that if he wants to, but he teamed us up with a power playing media company of sorts. Press release is going out today. Going to be very interesting to see what outlets pick up on this story. It's already been hot and heavy in the news. You know, Zuckerberg and Dorsey were in front of Congress testifying again last week. So it's very front and center.
Some people may not know that. So last week, Congress was calling and confronting the head of Twitter, the head of Facebook, and they were testifying. And you're free to watch this testimony, and you could draw your own conclusions. My conclusions are avoidance, deflection, big problems as they were confronted by people in Congress. And yes, like all hearings in Congress, there's a lot of theatrics and whatever, but the question answering at the core issues of CDA and censorship and collaboration to censor, all those things were avoided at, in a phenomenal way. And forgetting all of it at its simplest, big companies can't use laws falsely, pretextually to gain economic benefit. The consequences are extraordinary. Like the consequences are extraordinary. It gives, as Jeff said, it gives the room to create ideological slanting, political slanting, problems all over the place, an absence of freedom of information flow. And at its essence, I think I would feel a whole lot differently, begin to feel a whole lot differently. First, if the CDA, they're not allowed to use the CDA this way. And second, they just all come out, instead of saying we're connecting the world, if they were to come out and say, we're not connecting the world in any way, right? We are a for-profit business that is designed to addict you to watching our content so we can sell your eyeballs to advertisers, just like television. And it may not change anything, right? But at least if we stepped into the space of honesty, we'd be in a very different world. And that what you're seeing, like, don't call it a news feed. It is not a news feed. It's called your like personal preference channel guide, right? That everything you're seeing has no basis in reality. There is no proof that anything you're seeing has any basis in reality whatsoever, and is distorting your mind completely about reality. If that was being said, then I'm a pretty libertarian kind of guy. And it's like, hey, if people want to use heroin, I've never done a drug in my entire life. I'm kind of like, all right, do whatever you want to do. Buyers beware, decision makers beware, as long as you have all the information. So as long as everybody's like, yep, this is what we are, here we go. So Jeff, any final on this? We're going to post the press release later today. Feel free to read it or feel free to ignore it. But what is at stake is meaningful to everybody here. And at its simplest, I will continue to say this. It is not your, Jeff, would you agree with the statement? It is not their Facebook page. It is not their Instagram. It is not their YouTube. It is not their LinkedIn. It is LinkedIn's. You're gathering people for LinkedIn. You're gathering people for Facebook. You're gathering people for Twitter, for Instagram, for YouTube. You're gathering people for all these things, and you're not getting paid for it. And there's no monetization model for you. And you're pushing these people into that world. And if you think you're building your business that way, you're crazy. You're crazy. And you're losing ecosystem capital in a huge way. Jeff, agree or disagree with that statement?
I agree. It's supposed to be your page, but as soon as you monetize, as soon as you really make it your own, in reality, it's not. So don't be fooled. Buyer beware. I agree.
Because you can't reach the people. I have 5,000, I'm capped at Facebook friends. I can't reach my people. I put out a video. It doesn't reach everybody. It doesn't reach close to everybody, right? It's just not how it works. If you can pay to reach more people, that's the point. Jeff, if I put up a video today, do 5,000 people see my video? If I have 5,000 friends?
No, unless, like you say, you're a paying good grace customer with your social media giant. No, your audience will not enjoy the full reach. No.
Yeah, not even close. So that is all. Jeff, any final, brother? Call to action, call to thought. Thank you for being here today.
Well, yeah, a huge thank you for letting me be here today. And I would call the group to action. This does affect you big time, whether you know it or not. So even at the grassroots level, to the extent you feel inclined to get behind us in this movement, do so. Grassroots, post about it, share it. Yeah, big time call to action, folks. Very important stuff here. And again, thank you for the opportunity to speak with y'all. Sean, Fernando, Adam, thank you guys.
Yeah, great job, brother. Thank you for standing in the gap for truth. By the way, this is a case that we are handling on a contingency. And so this isn't like we're getting paid to say this. Jeff Graber has an incredible personal sacrifice with young kids, family, taken on this cause at an extremely high level. Like I've taken it on too, but at a fraction of the day-to-day level that Jeff lives this. It has slowed massively the growth and acceleration of our Florida operations, and does a great job with stuff. But this is a very consuming thing that's occurred here, and it's coming to its crescendo. And so we are very hopeful to be arguing in front of the United States Supreme Court that they'll do the right thing. It's impossible, well, not impossible. Very few cases get accepted by the United States Supreme Court, like 1%. But we are confident with what their decisions have been. We think that they know this case is coming, that they're going to take it. We'll see if we're right. Our level 5 listening says that from opinions that have been issued and statements that have been made. And this is a bipartisan issue. This is a human issue. This is an American issue. Like every one of us practically has social media all over the place. And like waking up to the reality that it is not ours is critically important, and creating alternatives to it, which is what in part what we're doing with proximity. And just in its infancy. And that's, by the way, it's not why we created proximity, but I've realized over the last month that proximity could be a very meaningful answer and alternative to that as we move forward. So all of those things are the case. We have a lot of work to do to make proximity into an interactive, connected platform versus someplace to like maintain your ecosystem capital and build a relationship. Proximity is great for that already, right? It's there. It's not an interconnective, social media, Instagram or YouTube or Facebook-like platform, but that is what I'm now confronting our leadership around, saying we got to go build this. So that is where things are for now. Jeff Graber, great job. Thank you for all of your sacrifices in this for truth and acceleration. So thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.
Yep. All right. So takeaways from today. Like there's causes out there and we're causing leadership. That's just one example of what we're up to in the space and world of Unblinded and trying to create positive acceleration. P.S. There's no desire to grandstand, to make any issues bigger or smaller than they are. But this issue is of massive importance, straight up. And if we think that if you watch The Social Dilemma, it is clear that our perspectives, as we spoke about yesterday, we spoke about on Friday, are being shaped this way. And by the way, this is not going to be like an everyday conversation. Okay. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the formula and leadership, but like we're in the formula right now as well, because part of what we're here to do is to cause the world to be better. And if everybody, there's a concept in economics called externalities, the principle of externalities. And the principle of externalities means that if there's a problem in the neighborhood, it often never gets solved because nobody will deal with it. It's the same, a related problem to when somebody was stabbed like 20 times in front of 40 people in New York City, like 20 years ago. Malcolm Gladwell speaks about this, and there's a whole bunch that was involved there. But one of the principles is like somebody else will deal with it. And so Jeff Graber and Cal Giwal, we picked up the mantle and said, well, I don't see anybody else, picking up the weapons to deal with this. So we got to deal with it. And sometimes if people do nothing, right, then horrible things happen. And, there's been amazing dynamics of tyranny that have repeatedly occurred in the world because good people thought somebody else would deal with it. So we're dealing with it. And each of us can begin to deal with this by becoming aware and by thinking of alternatives to how you control your ecosystem capital instead of giving it away for you, your family, your future. So awesome stuff. Adam, Fernando. Adam, what do you guys final, brother?
My final is it's amazing, Sean, because you've been working on this for the past 3 years. And this is the first time, it has even been exposed to the group at large. So just amazing truth. That's what it comes down to. Now is the time. And just appreciate all you've been doing, all Jeff's been doing on that front. Because of that, he's been, enabling you to be able to continue your leadership here at Unblinded. So thank you so much, Jeff. And whatever we can do to support, we got your back.
No, awesome job, brother. Fernando, final.
Thank you for this conversation. Jeff, I feel strongly for what you're up to in the world and your call to action to share. Everyone, share may mean like on your social media, like that's a little fun and like tongue in cheek. And it's merge ecosystems, connect with people, own your ecosystem, human equity, own it integriously, lovingly, together. meritocracy, mutual accountability structures, love, aspirational, goddess, and let's move through what's here together. That's what's alive and present. And thank you, Jeff, for not only bringing it top of mind, for supporting and bringing it top of heart, because we know what this means for the not only the future of Unblinded. Like, let's step into that for a second, the future of the world.
Yeah. And for everybody, it's an access point for you to discuss ecosystem capital. Like if you share this concept, right, it begins a conversation around ecosystem capital. And even if you're whomever you're Sean Condamori as a doctor, and you want to begin to talk to your other doctor brethren about building their practice, creating referral relationships, doing what you do, it's a conversation starter about, hey, what's your ecosystem capital? How do you maintain your ecosystem capital? How do you market? And these are interesting conversations to have with people, to have them see their future in you, your leadership, your wisdom, and wanting to merge ecosystems, speak, and do things with you. When you bring higher thoughts, integriously higher vibrational thought. There's a book, Power versus Force by Hawkins, right? Power versus Force. And there's a lot there. It talks about kinesiology, vibrational energy. Dear friend, Pat Nelson, a dear friend of Mona's, dear friend of mine, is a huge fan of the book. Greg DiPietro, the guy I talk about, the book 30 Meetings in 2 weeks when everybody booked zero. Greg was the original person who introduced Power versus Force to me. What that book talks about is how when truth is present, it just vibrates at a higher energy level and it attracts. And if that's a little bit much, like just call it resonance, call it gravitational pull, intellectually, emotionally, if you want to stay out of the energy space, right? But truth resonates. So when you speak into higher vibrational truth, it opens listening, it creates curiosity and draws people towards you. Today, you're given access to higher vibrational truth, right? And that conversation with people like, hey, you have an ecosystem value. You ever thought about that? When you cause people to think about things they don't normally think about that are true, that will help their life. Not like, oh, did you ever think of what an a-hole this one is? That's lower vibrational. But when you begin to think about things to cause more, hey, like, how do you rate the magic in your life? Like, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, like the amazingness of your life. Like, you ever think about that? Mary, John, Joe? Like higher vibrational conversation of truth and what's present becomes attractive and draws. So that's where we are on Trajectory Tuesday, opening the listening of people, leaning in with powerful, higher vibrational, aspirational questions, resonating in truth, draws people to you. I am drawn to you. I am grateful.